What's up, everybody? It's your girl, Michelle Renee from IamMichelleRenee.com. And today I have someone who's very near and dear to me, one of my closest friends, my LS, my soror, my boo, my sister, and most importantly, my corrector. She will get me all the way together if I'm out of line. Attorney Tameika Bennett. Welcome, Miss Bennett.
Hey everybody.
How's it going?
It's going, girl. It's Friday. Thank God.
Hallelujah. All right, so let's jump right in this. Tell everybody who you are, where you're from, and what your brand is.
Okay, so my name is Tameika Bennett. I am an attorney. I own my own law practice, Bennett Law Office PLLC in Brandon, Mississippi. I am originally from Jackson, Mississippi, but I grew up in Georgia. Attended Marietta High School and came back to Mississippi when it was time for me to go to college, and I've been here ever since.
Yes, awesome. She is an attorney, all these phenomenal things. What we're going to talk about today is the importance of understanding why having an attorney in your realm exists. But tell us a little bit about your practice since becoming an attorney and how what made you want to go into law?
Well, I've always wanted to be an attorney ever since I was a little girl. I used to watch episodes of like Perry Mason and, just lawyer
Matlock.
shows. And I always felt, yeah, Matlock was one of my favorites. That, I could do that. And so I just tried to figure out what was the best path to get to being an attorney and pretty much followed that. Didn't have very many examples, in my own personal family or people that I could look to see the example. So at that time, they used to tell you, if you wanted to be an attorney, you had to major in political science. You needed to do really, really well on your LSAT and keep your grades up and, take advanced classes. You had to be able to write well, things of that nature. And so I pretty much chose that path throughout the time that I was in grade school, on up to my bachelor's degree, and so on and so forth. I just followed the path that other people had said was the way that you should go when you wanted to attend law school. As far as my practice has become very diverse. Initially, when I got out of school, I was working for the Mississippi Department of Human Services in their Child Support Enforcement Division. So I was a prosecutor prosecuting cases for child support. And I did that for about 3 years and got to the point where I was like, you know what? I think there's so much more to life than doing this for me. It's a very noble profession, very noble position. Um, it's not something for the faint at heart, but I kind of got burned out.
Yeah.
So I just felt like I needed something more to challenge me. And I'm one of those people that God had been told me years before when I got out of law school, when I was looking for a job, kind of like when the Israelites was like, hey, we need a king. I was like, hey, I need a job. And he's like, no, you don't need a job. You can open up your own practice. And I'm like, but I'm not an entrepreneur, Lord. That's not my lane. I don't want to do that. I want a job. I want somebody to tell me when I'm coming in and when I'm going to leave. I want to know how much money I'm going to make on Friday and to live accordingly. Oh, yeah. But, like they say, God's plans are always better than yours. And he always has his way, and he'll let you try it your way for a little while, but eventually you'll get to the point where you just like, I should have did this a long time ago. So essentially, I started my practice when I got done working at DHS. I was just kind of doing some freelance work, working in the family law field. And then I decided, that I was going to have another baby. And so at that point, I was just like, you know what, I'll just work when I feel like working. And so I ended up taking a little bit of time off when I first had my second baby. And I ended up going to work for Mike Espy for a little while, doing some estate work. Mm-hmm. And all of that pretty much morphed back into my practice, because once I started doing that, I started doing estate work in my family law practice, where I wasn't just doing child support, custody, divorces. I started doing more estate work in addition to that. And then once I went back to my practice full time, I continued to work mostly in family law. Well, one of my colleagues that worked in the office where I shared office space had decided that she was going to go and prosecute for Hinds County, but she was a public defender. and she had quite a few cases that they were going to have to send to someone else. And so she was like, can you handle these cases for me? And of course I'm like, I don't know, can I?
Right.
But
That's been like the whole journey is, I don't know, can I? All right, let me do it.
yeah, yeah. So she pretty much took me to the courthouse, and usually this is how you know when God is ordering certain things to happen, is because
Mm-hmm.
this was something that I never really wanted to do. I never had a desire to do. I never went and applied for. I basically just went to the courthouse that day with her, and she was like, hey, give my cases to her. And that's how I became a public defender in Hinds County, which in turn ended up helping me to become a public defender in Rankin County, which is where I live.
Right.
And in Rankin County, I actually work, it's like a part-time position, but in Hinds County it was part-time, but it was only if it was conflicted out. Say for instance, you got two defendants that committed a crime, they both need a public defender. Well, the office of the public defender would handle one, and then they would farm the other one out to a private attorney to handle, because there were conflicts. They couldn't represent
Both clients.
both
Yeah.
clients
Yeah.
efficiently.
Yeah.
So essentially that's how I became a public defender. So now my practice has a criminal component to it, in addition to the family law
And the
component. And I
state.
also, right, the states and all that.
Yeah.
And I also do and handle some personal injury cases as well. So it's kind of a full service law firm, but it's very small towny feel. Very I guess I'm not a mega church, kind of like
Right.
I'm your old church in the country where, you know, it's basically me. If you need to talk about your case, I'm going to talk to you about your case. You don't
Yeah.
have to worry about, you know, going through a gatekeeper. Essentially, all my clients have my phone number, my cell phone number, and
Yes.
they're not afraid to use it. They use it quite often. So
I think it's
it
beautiful
is,
that you offer that kind of service though. Like, and I'm trying to get you to branch into a whole other development of entertainment law.
Lord help Jesus. I would have to see, this is the thing. I think I second guess a lot of stuff. I think you can do anything that you want to, but it's a matter of, I'm very particular about making sure I can give someone optimal service. Like, I don't like accepting money from people if I can't do a good job for them. And so I essentially will, if I don't feel comfortable doing something, I will tell them like, hey, I don't feel comfortable doing that.
Right.
I've had people be like, you can do this. I know you can do it, Tameika. You've done other work for me. And I'm like, I've never done it before. You may want to consult with somebody else that knows that's their expertise to assist you in that manner, you know, not me. But I've had clients who be like, you know, please, I just want you to try. And so there's some things that you'll never learn until you try.
Absolutely.
But
absolutely. I'm a true believer in that. And you know that when we started just our journeys in adulthood, that was kind of the path that we were both on. Like, okay, I don't fully know what I want to do and manifest in this particular field. I just know I want to be in this field, right? And everything that's kind of been presented to us has been, well, how about you do this? And we're going, oh no, okay, I'll try. And then it ends up being successful. So God does have a way of putting those things, whereas we want to put this ceiling over what he can do for us. And then he's just like, scratch that. This is what I want you to do. This is how you're going to do it. So that's phenomenal that you offer this. Really, I love that you describe your practice as a boutique practice, because that's exactly what it is. You get an offering of so many different things, but you also are very, very knowledgeable politically. So can you tell us just a little bit about how you have done and operated in that field of politics as it relates to being able to do the work that you do for the Black community and support some of the initiatives that we do? Can you talk a little bit about that?
Well, yeah, just briefly, my county, my home county where I reside now, actually, it really is my home county. I had to do a lot of ancestry research to find out that, but my grandfather was from Rankin County as well.
Okay.
So once I found out a little bit more about the county, and like I said, I didn't grow up here. My husband is a native. He grew up here. He has been here his entire life. So I kind of was taken aback by some of the things that I noticed in the area. There's very minimal representation in several of the governmental capacities in our county, in our city governments, local government, all of that. And when I um, decided, I guess this was about 2 years ago, I had a case that was a family law case, and it really struck a chord with me because our county is very pro shared custody, and which is usually very good in most cases. However, I think that you can't take a blanket approach to every case because every case is different. The facts are different, and essentially, I had a case where I had a young mom who was breastfeeding, and the judge in that case decided that he was going to order shared custody and basically advise this breastfeeding mother to pump and make sure that this man had enough milk when he had the baby, and that was how they were going to do custody. And it really struck a nerve with me because, number one, as a man, you never understand the capacity of nursing. You
Right.
never understand that the baby has to be with you in order for you to really produce milk. And so our county had never had a female judge. And I think that representation is very important because
Absolutely.
sometimes I think they just don't know.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so in their ignorance, they don't understand that, hey, you're putting a lot of pressure on
Mhm.
someone to produce milk while this child is there. And it is in this child's best interest to have this milk supplied for them. So while we recognize that it's important for this child to have a relationship with its biological father, I completely agree. We need to tweak this in some kind of way to make it where it works for both parties and it benefits the child at the same time. And
Right.
so that particular case was the day that I was just like, you know what? I'm very annoyed by how things work. And the only way that we're going to be able to really change it is if we're a part of the political landscape. And so I
Right.
decided that I was going to run for one of those judge seats so that, we would have some representation, not just as Black people, but as females, whatever. There, we need more diversity on our bench. It needed to
Yes, we
be
do.
balanced.
And in every
And
county, in every state, it should look like your constituents. It should look like the people that live there. Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
And so that in turn ended up, after my run, I was actually appointed to be the hearing officer for the Board of Supervisors in Rankin
Mhm.
County, which I basically have to hear administratively hearings on their behalf and make decisions because they are politically elected officials.
Mhm.
And so typically when they tell people no, they know that there's a consequence as to the fact that they can lose their job. Well,
Mhm.
they usually hire a hearing officer to uphold the rules so that there's nothing personal, and that, if they get mad at somebody, it's usually me and not the board.
Exactly.
Um,
Exactly.
but essentially, I've been in that capacity for nearly 2 years, and I'm the first woman, first African American woman to hold that position. And so I try to do so with the utmost dignity and respect to, all the constituents in the county. And I really have a fairness about me because what I have to hear matters concerning waste management in our county, which deals with taxes.
Right.
Essentially, waste management in Rankin County is a tax.
Yeah.
And if you don't pay for your garbage, then you cannot get a tag. You cannot
Mhm.
sell your home. They put a lien on your property. So essentially, you have to pay for garbage quarterly. And if you do not do so, then you cannot do anything in the county. And so we have people that will come in that have not paid garbage in years. Usually it goes back to the issue of heirs property. Grandmama died and grandson is living on the property, but he's not paying any bills. But then when somebody else comes to try to get a tag because they bought a new car, they can't get a tag. And so we have to figure out a way where they can pay this bill down, but they can still get the services that they need.
Right.
And I was told, by people previously that, we could work with people, but I think maybe they think I'm a little too nice.
Yeah.
but at the same time,
You're giving all the waste
we
management services away for free. You can't do that.
no, I don't do that, but I do require them to pay something down. We will put them on a payment plan.
Yeah.
But I've been told that since that has happened, more people are adhering to actually paying the debt. So it has brought in
That's
more
good.
money. So like I said, I just try to treat everybody fair. Because sometimes they come in, they're disabled, then they don't have the income
Right.
to pay that amount of money. And there are certain things that you can do for them when they are disabled. They can apply for certain exemptions.
Mm-hmm.
If you're over the age of 65, you get a discounted rate. And a lot of people just don't know that. And
Right.
those things I can help them, achieve on their account. So it's been a very rewarding position. And I think it does instill some pride within the community that's
Absolutely.
around when they see someone who looks like them actually helping in the decision making process.
I think that's phenomenal, and that's what we're looking at asking for is just representation because we've been here hundreds of years. We've actually been here longer than that, but that's another story. But we've been here all this time, and for us to just be in 2020 and now finally getting to see some representation of ourselves, yeah, we're gonna celebrate. We're gonna cheer and be excited about that. My next question falls on the line of with knowing that you offer this myriad of services, how important is it for people to seek out, especially Black people, because you talked about, heirs cases and things like that. How important is it for us to have wills and make sure that our estates and things are taken care of so that you don't have to deal with that kind of stuff? Can you stress the importance of that?
Well, every state is different. So, while most property in Mississippi, real property passes through intestate succession anyway, which means basically you don't have to have a will for your family members to get your property. But you do need to outline how you want it to pass.
Okay.
For instance, if you have real property, like me and my husband own a house together. So if I die before him, the way that our deed is written is we're joint tenants with the right of survivorship, meaning that if I die, he takes my interest. And if your deed is not set up in that way, then we would just be joint tenants. So essentially, my children and him would own my interests together as equal partners. And then at that point, they would have to go to court in order for them to get their each 1/4 interest of my property. So the way that you avoid those things from happening is you can always do a deed that provides you with a life estate in your own property. And then once you pass, it goes directly to those people that you want it to go to. And that saves you time and money from probating an estate. It saves you from having that attached by creditors. So it kind of just takes a step out of the process. But if you don't have much of anything, there's nothing wrong with having a will because people will fight over bubblegum and lint.
Listen, pens and
Any
pencils.
Anytime there's something to fight over, people will fight over it. I remember when my great grandmama died, I think they got to fighting over. You remember them white porcelain cats that old people used to have at their house? Like
Yes. Yes.
it was a full on like
Yeah.
that's my grandma told me I could have that cat. No, that's my cat. I mean, just crazy. And to the point where people go without talking to each other and things don't get resolved because my great grandma could have wrote down on a sheet of paper like such and such
Cat
gets this
belongs to
cat.
Joey and been done with it. And
And
been
most
done
of the
with it.
time,
Yeah.
a will is not worth anything until it's probated. So it's just a sheet of paper. But most of the time, when people see what someone's actual wishes are, they know how to move in accordance to what those wishes were of that person. And if for some reason you believe that there was some fraud or some undue influence that was put on the person to make them do things that way, you can always bring that before the court and challenge
Right.
fiduciary capacity
Right.
and let them determine whether or not this person was of sound mind and body when they executed the document.
I think we missed that part, and people feel like you got to have millions of dollars to write it up, and you don't. It's just you want to have, and I think about this all the time. And of course, I talk to our line sister Deidre about it all the time when it comes to like financial planning and things like that, that you don't want your people back here fighting and suffering after they're already having to deal with the grief of loss. Like, you gotta set them up so there's something that is to be gained from your loss, right? And I think that's what we kind of miss sometimes in our community, that has to really be stressed, that, you know your state laws, know what's going on, find a way to make sure that you are doing whatever you can to prevent, or to at least ease some of that stress that comes with losing anybody, or, dealing with any of those things. So I think we have to make more time for conversations around things like that. But
and
I'm glad you're here. Yeah.
Specifically with heirs property, you should definitely, lots of people in the older generation, they passed away and they did not have anything setting out what they would do. And now we're in positions where, you're 3 generations removed, people don't really know each other, they can't get along. You got property that is valuable as an asset. It has, timber, as natural resources, things of that nature on the land, and you can't do nothing with it.
Nothing, because
everybody got to agree.
Yep. We see that a lot. Especially in Mississippi, we see a whole lot of that. So I think we have to have more conversations and speak in more diverse situations where people can understand that this is a conversation that everybody should be having. And if you're not having it because you don't have land or access to some resources, then we need to be having some other conversations about how to acquire some of those things, right? So I think it's a very fluid talk that has to take place in order for us to really kind of grow people's minds around things like that. So I'm really excited just to have you here and have you to be able to share some of those insights. Do you offer any tips or things like that via your social media or your law firm's social media to be able to share with people? How can people find more valuable information like that from you?
I really don't post a lot on my business page, only because I'm working.
Right.
And if I probably had a social media person, I'm sure there would be some tidbits that are, posted quite frequently. But like I said, I'm pretty much an open book. I don't have an issue with someone calling to ask me a question. All of my consultations that are 30 minutes are completely complimentary. So you can definitely schedule an appointment if you have questions about certain things. I don't have a problem with reviewing a document and, just explaining to you whether or not it's doing what you think it does.
Right.
In regards to estate matters and things of that nature. Or, people will come in because they've been divorced, but things aren't going according to what the document says. So I don't have a problem with consulting with anyone or speaking with them about their particular legal issue. I would just say that I probably could do, better at posting on social media, but I honestly just don't have the time because
we're gonna work on that. Your
working.
niece is like the social media queen, so we'll see if we can get her to get some tidbits and get some stuff going for you with her pages and the way she handles things. So we'll talk about that. But how can people get in touch with you, reach out to you to ask those questions, to tap into you as a resource, or to even use your services if you're able to help guide them? I know that you practice in Mississippi, but that doesn't mean that you're not aware of how to direct them to other people who may be able to help them if they're in a different state. So how can people reach out to you?
You can reach me by email at Tameika, Tameika, at tcblawgroup.net. And you can call my cell phone, 601-868-1273. It is actually my cell phone. So you can call that. And even my office number, which I don't know because I use my cell phone, is routed to my cell phone. Okay. So if you go to Bennett Law Office and you look up, I think it's a 769 number that's on there, that number comes straight to my cell phone.
Okay.
So essentially,
and I'll make sure that I tag all of that information at the end credits of the video. You'll be able to see how to get in contact with Tameika, how to ask some questions, and then I'm going to work on a business plan with her to be able to help her answer all these things in one simple swipe or platform, because you're such a wealth of knowledge. You're such a dope Black woman. I love you in my grits. You're one of my favorite people in the whole wide world, and I mean that like from the bottom of my heart. Like you are a friend's friend, meaning that if a person has the pleasure of having you as a friend, then they have all that they need.
Oh, that's so nice.
Like you are truly that kind of friend, and you have been from the day I met you. That's what you've been to me. So I'm so grateful to be able to share with my viewers and my listeners and my readers this space with you, because you truly are a wealth of knowledge. And when you know, and you stand firm in it. So I'm gonna ask you one last question and then we'll conclude. The last question is, what is one word that affirms who you are?
Loyal. I'm very loyal. Like if you
couldn't pick a
my
better word.
person,
Yeah.
if you my person, I'm gonna fight for you. I'm gonna argue for you. My clients, I'm loyal to them. You don't have to work. You wouldn't have to second guess my desire to help you. I'm very transparent. If I ain't fooling with you, you know I ain't fooling with you. I'm gonna let you know. I'm just the honest. I mean, it's an oxymoron. People's like, I've never seen a lawyer that's like honest. I'm like, look, I'm not taking your money for this because
You
basically
didn't do
I'll be
right now.
swindling you.
On this. Yeah.
Well, no, I'm just saying in general, like they're like, I want this to happen. I'm like, I'm not taking your money on that because it's not going to happen. No court is going to give you that because it's not going to happen. So there's no point in me taking your money and lying to you and making you believe that it's going to when I know it's not going to happen. And so
you are in fact the most honest attorney I've ever met in my life. Like in my life. But you are good at what you do too. And the fact that you can be good at what you do and be honest and be loyal and be thorough and fair speaks volumes to who you are as an individual. And so you wear the title of attorney, but it encompasses who you are as a person. I think that's amazing. Truly.
Yes, I agree. I agree. Thank you, friend.
My pleasure, friend. So thank you so much for joining us today. I'm so grateful to have you here, and I can't wait to share you with the world.
All right. I look forward to it.
Yeah.